When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
It certainly does. Let's get to it. We're rolling right into it. Another big day. Hope you had a great weekend. We did. Weather's been great up here. Hope you enjoyed more of the same. Welcome to as we fight for you from the foxhole of freedom, defending freedom every single day. It is a relentless pursuit of truth. Here are three big things to know this hour. Number one, Jill Biden saying she thought her husband, former faux president Joe Biden, was having a stroke during his infamous debate, continuing to create major rifts in the political world. We'll talk about that. Number two, President Trump says he will end Iran slowly but surely no matter what happens. And right now, oil and gas prices falling sharply, which is good news, at least for today. And number three, everywhere you look, the establishment media is rolling out the red carpet for a new wave of Democrat candidates. They're branding them as fresh, modern, and perfectly suited for middle America. They want you to believe these guys are different, that they understand working class values, respect the military, and have deep respect for faith, while somehow also an agenda that opposes it. But if you scratch just a millimeter beneath the surface of that slick multi-million-dollar marketing paint, what do you actually find? Well, let me tell you, the exact same radical, borderless, anti-worker progressivism that has been hollowing out this country for decades. They've just wrapped it up in a brand new focus grouped package. And you want to know why they're so aggressive about pushing these agendas? Why they preach a nonstop gospel of grievance, division, and resentment? Because deep down, these people are fundamentally miserable. Look at the data. Study after study, year after year, including decades of tracking from the General Social Survey, points to a glaring, indisputable fact. Far-left progressives are the single most unhappy, anxious, and dissatisfied demographic in the United States. Their entire worldview is built on a foundation of misery and, of course, perpetual victimhood. They look at a great, beautiful nation and see only the flaws, and because they are unhappy, their entire political mission is to export that misery to the rest of America. They want to force your family, your church, and your community to live under the cloud of their endless resentment. Take a look at Maine, where they're trying to sell us Graham Plattner. They want you to look at him and just see a Marine veteran running a populist campaign for the working class. But character matters. And what a person does when they think nobody is watching tells you everything you need to know. Let's talk about the giant elephant in the room, his tattoo. We're expected to believe that a grown man accidentally sported a Totenkopf, a notorious Nazi death head symbol, prominently on his chest for nearly 20 years, and we're supposed to just brush it off as a silly mistake from a night of heavy drinking in Croatia. Even some logical CNN talking heads aren't buying that load of crap. Listen to this.
For the tattoo, he didn't cover it until October of 2025, 18 years after getting it, and only when it became a political problem. Think about that for a moment. 18 years of getting out of the shower, 18 years of looking into the mirror and seeing the Totenkopf. That's not a drunken mistake in Croatia. That's a daily choice, sustained for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah, that's a daily choice. If a conservative candidate had that symbol anywhere near their body, the media would have run them out of the country by midnight. It shows a profound, shocking lack of judgment. That's not a youthful indiscretion. That's something that you should disqualify you from a basic security clearance, let alone writing national laws. But it's not just the ink. It's his attitude toward the people he says he wants to represent. Plattner has a history of deleted social media rants where he ripped into local police officers, disparaged rural white Americans, and launched bitter attacks against genuine American heroes like Sniper Chris Kyle. Listen to these insidious comments.
His stories about how many people he was shooting certainly tracked with the behavior I witnessed and people I knew witnessed down at the Gov Center, which is it's relatively easy to get high numbers like that if you're a little less discriminating. You're fire than, say, a more professional unit would be.
He's literally saying that Kyle killed innocent people just to boost his numbers. You honestly can't get any lower than that. And Chris Kyle's widowed wife calls it for what it is, despicable.
Oh, I mean, to me, it's just like nothing says, I want attention more than disparaging a national hero who's also dead. It's transparent, it's cowardly, it's lowbrow to lie about somebody else, right? And it distracts from what you've probably said. And in this case, I think some things that he has said. And it's this cheap political trick to say, I haven't done a whole lot, so let me attach my name to somebody who's beloved. And if nothing else, I'll get out in the news. And that's working for him to get that notoriety. But to me, it shows a total inability to lead with character. So for me, he would be out of the running immediately.
Listen, Graham Plattner holds deep visceral contempt for the very cultural fabric of the community he's now begging for votes. He wears the camo to blend in, but he's a progressive elite through and through. He didn't apologize because he had a change of heart. He apologized because he got caught trying to climb the political ladder with all that baggage. Then we move over to Michigan, where Dr., and I use that term loosely, Abdul El Sayed is running for the Senate. El Sayed represents the dangerous intersection of identity politics and radical globalism. He talks a big game about safety and justice, but look at his actual record on immigration law. He has consistently used his platform to rail against the most basic common sense border enforcement, attacking the very structures designed to vet who comes into our country. Not to mention, he doesn't even understand the concept. How do I know? He explains.
Immigration law is not criminal law. Immigration law is civil law. It's like getting a parking ticket. So the idea that we should have a paramilitary force that is weaponized on our streets to enforce civil law seems to me to be a bit over the top, particularly considering the fact that the current president is weaponizing ICE against the idea of the rule of law itself. The idea that they should just be governed simply by Stephen Miller and Donald Trump without any enforcement around basic warrant law or the Constitution itself, that to me is frustrating.
As you can imagine, Tom Homan had a heyday with that mischaracterization. Here is part of Homan's response. Listen.
Go to Title 8, United States Code, 1324, 1325, 1326. It is a crime to enter this country illegally. And we prosecute a lot of people for 1325. If they've been deported before it came back, we prosecute them under 1326, which is a reentry, which is a felony. So no, he's wrong. Entering this country illegally is a crime. And look, ICE, people need to understand, ICE just don't enforce immigration laws. ICE do narcotics investigations. They do human trafficking investigations. They do guns trafficking to other countries. They have investigations where our technology is smuggled out of the country and given to our enemies. That's going to be used against our war fighters. They conduct those investigations. We enforce over 400 statutes, which includes immigration, of course, is included. But ICE has a big cadre of responsibilities. They keep this nation safe.
Yeah, and all you have to do is look at how El Sayed reacts when his radical ideology bears its ugly fruit. Look at his stunning double standards when a targeted violent attack occurred at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. What did El Sayed do? Instead of offering clear, unconditional condemnation of a horrific hate crime, he hid behind textbook leftist jargon, minimizing the violence by claiming that hurt people hurt people. Yeah, think about that. It's abnormal, as is much of this. More after the break on Daybreak. None of this, by the way, is a surprise for El Sayed. When you see who hitches their wagon to his deal, El Sayed has been out on the campaign trail actively cozying up to far-left anti-American influencers like the infamous Hassan Piker. By elevating and normalizing voices that traffic in blatant anti-Semitic rhetoric, El Sayed shows he is perfectly willing to tolerate extremism to fire up his radical woke base or just deceive them. We see it for what it is. It's an alliance of convenience with the most radical elements of the far left, but perhaps the most insidious strategy of all belongs to James Tallarico down in Texas. Tallarico is the ultimate wolf in shepherd's clothing. He uses his theological training not to preach the gospel, but to hijack Christian messaging and weaponize it for the Democrat National Committee. He goes on secular platforms like the Joe Rogan Experience or Ezra Klein's podcast, and he puts on this performance of a pious, folksy believer. But what is he actually doing? He's stripping Christianity of its objective moral obligations and replacing it with a progressive secular checklist. He has the absolute audacity to claim that the Bible is woke, or to twist Scripture to claim that it somehow sanctions abortion because Mary gave consent before the incarnation. It is disgusting theological malpractice. A performance designed to make secular liberals feel comfortable and validated in their secularism while tearing down traditional values. He preaches a false gospel of solidarity, claiming his progressive religious populism fights for the poor. But let's look at the real-world results of his party's platform. The open borders they champion depress the wages of hardworking American citizens. The globalist trade deals they support exported our manufacturing base to foreign adversaries, decimating the very working-class families Tallarico pretends to champion. He doesn't serve the gospel. He serves an elite political agenda that demands Scripture bend the knee to the modern cultural orthodoxy. And this is what he calls women in America today. Listen to this.
Every one of our neighbors with a uterus became the property of the state. One of our neighbors with a uterus to be able to control their own body. One of our neighbors with a uterus. One of our neighbors with a uterus.
Neighbors with a uterus. It's not at all what God said when he created man and woman. Not all Democrats view Tallarico as a winning ticket. In fact, many of them see him as the opposite of what Texas stands for. Even Bill Maher couldn't help but poke fun at this pansy of a candidate. Listen to this.
Then we have this guy, James Tallarico. We had him on the show recently. I mean, he seemed like a nice guy. He seemed very reasonable. They're spreading rumors that he's gay, or even worse, vegan.
In Texas, vegan is worse.
No, I'm telling you.
He said he ran a vegan campaign.
He said what?
He's on video running a vegan campaign. That doesn't play well in Texas.
No, he said some things that don't play well in Texas, like God is non-binary, which if there is a God...
He's taken that back. He said it was a silly thing for him to say.
It is a silly thing to say because it just looks bad on a poster or an ad.
Yeah. When you connect the dots between Graham Plattner, Abdul El Sayed, and James Tallarico, the pattern becomes crystal clear. This isn't a new direction for the Democrat Party. It's the same old grievance machine designed to divide us, rewrite our history, and systematically tear down the foundational institutions of American life. They want to govern through constant forced moral re-engineering and economic submission fueled by the bitter unhappiness that defines their movement. They're so out of touch that they think this is a completely normal talking point made by New Mexico's governor. Listen to this.
And the issues that we're all battling every single day for the people that we love in our communities, straight up. Should be no contest, but it is. If women, Democratic women, just show up and vote, we're good. We don't need any of the men.
Yeehaw! Cue up Helen Reddy, I am a woman, hear me roar. But it's actually, we're highlighting this because this is what the Democrat Party did in the last 2024 election, and there was a lesson for them. You look at the numbers, there's a 37-point swing, right? In 2020, Biden won young men by 29 points. Trump flipped it to +8. That's a 37-point swing.
Sure is. Big swing. I call that unhinged and completely unrealistic. We don't need any men. Yeah, how's that working out? But we don't have to accept their misery. The America First movement offers a joyful, confident, optimistic alternative. We believe in economic nationalism that puts the American worker first. We believe in secure borders, absolute respect for our faith, and the defense of our communities. We are ready to reject the woke playbook, expose the fake moderates, and take our country back. That's where we stand today, and we should. We'll, of course, continue to keep an eye on all of those candidates as we move forward, and that's the monologue. Quick update this morning. Oil is at $90. Gas is now cheaper than it's been in quite some time. I like to bring that to you because it's a good sign. Indiana, the cheapest gas in America. Again today, the average in that state, $3.66. Right next door in Illinois, $4.75. $3.66 versus $4.75. I can guarantee you people living on the Illinois-Indiana border are driving right into Indiana to get cheap gas. So are the folks in Kentucky. Their gas over $4. Ohio's $4.32. They're going over the border. Michigan, $4.35. We're going over the border to get that cheap gas. I guarantee it. What did Indiana do? Well, the governor there, Governor Braun, put a hold on all the taxes while the prices are high. To do what? To help out his people. Maybe some other governors should pay attention, especially Illinois, $4.75. Well, it's $3.66 next door. Did you know that about 70% of your immune system lives in your gut, and many people have an imbalance without even realizing it? Some probiotics may help prevent and manage some disease, support intestinal health, boost immune function, and aid in cancer prevention. Longevity contains a whopping 2 billion CFUs of probiotics per serving. Longevity, we use it every day in this house. It's a complete nutritional support that gives you everything you need to age well. Age well. How do I look? Go to longevitywellness.co. Enter the promo code Gruber at checkout for a special discount. LongevityWellness.co. Listen, the kids eat it. Ivy eats it. I eat it. We all use it. Anthony uses it, for God's sakes. Everybody uses it. Good stuff. LongevityWellness.co. Go there for a special discount right now. And if you become a subscriber, you save even more money. I'll take a break and be right back. Throughout the Democrat world, Jill Biden changing her tune about that infamous debate performance by Joe Biden. Not sitting well, not even with Democrats. Jill's like, well, I thought he was having a stroke. That's not what you said before. Not even close. Her former spokesman, Michael LaRosa, just said this about it. They're trying to change the tape in people's minds about who she is. That's why she's changing her tune about her reaction in real time. She wants to say, oh, no, my reaction was just as concerning and was just as severe as everyone at home. I was shocked. He said Jill was the face and the voice of the initial reaction for the country. If she had reacted at that time with sentiments she later shared with CBS, it would have been a more human response. But you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts, she said to the Joe Biden, like he was a little boy on the stage. Remember that? But here's what she said on CBS. I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched, I thought, oh, my God, he's having a stroke. Yeah. We just thought that's the same Joe Biden we've seen for a long time. Yeah, that's exactly what we thought. We thought that's the same Joe Biden we have seen for a long time. You know. Had another great sleep last night. I'm not kidding you. It was fabulous. Yeah, ghost bed. We've been using this for about 4 months now, 3-4 months. We're sleeping great, Ivy and I. It's an American-made mattress and sleeping system. It's the Ghost Bed. And it honestly has changed everything for the better for us. We sleep better, and I know because the Oura Ring gave me another mid-80s score last night, which is very good, by the way. Keep track of everything. This is what good sleep feels like, apparently, and I'm just loving it. These are engineered sleep systems, and they're health equipment. Your body is supposed to recover and heal when you sleep. If you're tossing and turning, you're too hot, you're not sleeping well, or you're laying awake at night, that's not getting it done, folks. Ghost Bed gets it done. And I noticed the difference right away. I have, and I'm sleeping great, and I appreciate it. Another thing about Ghost Bed, you get 101 nights to try it at home, no risk. If you don't feel the difference, you can send it back risk-free. They'll come over and pick it up. Now, I think you're going to love it. And I've gotten the emails from you folks saying it's great, and I think you're going to love it. Go to ghostbed.com/Gruber. Use that promo code Gruber. You're going to get the best price of the year. Ghostbed.com. Promo code is Gruber. You'll be as pleased as I am, I'm sure of it. I'll be right back. All right, housing in America. Housing in America has become a conversation of importance. Look, houses have been selling not as well as they were at one point, but it's a seller's market. I mean, I'm talking to people who are getting more than their asking price. You know, they're putting a house in the market and suddenly there's a bidding war. Good for them because, especially at certain price points, you get down into that, you know, those lower price ranges, people are desperate for housing and they're willing to pay for it. Richard Stern is vice president of the Plymouth Institute for Free Enterprise and Advancing American Freedom. Richard, nice to see you today.
Good to see you, too.
And I want to talk about this legislation, the House Amendment to the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. First of all, for the folks that don't know, what is the Road to Housing Act, and why is it important?
So this is a bill that's working its way through both the House of Representatives and the Senate that would make a bunch of changes. Now, the proponents of the bill say that it's going to make it easier to afford housing. But, truth be told, I think all of these are placebos. These are things that sound good on a campaign bumper sticker, but really they target the investors, they target the companies that put money into the housing market and get more houses built. I think this bill will ultimately make housing less affordable.
So it's a gimmick to you, an advertising gimmick for campaigns is what you're telling me.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about who's investing, we're talking about BlackRock, State Street. They're trying to prevent some of these big institutional organizations from purchasing single-family homes, right?
Well, so that's part of it. But the other one is that a lot of these investors, and it's not just, BlackRock, it's also mid-tier, smaller investors, they will put money down to build communities of homes just for the rental market, which is perfect for people that are doing short-run jobs. It actually alleviates pressure from people who are looking to buy housing for the long run. So this will crunch the supply, make housing even more expensive, even rarer.
When I look at BlackRock, and I've had this theory for a while now, whether it's BlackRock or the mid-tier investors, they're gobbling up these homes in certain markets. Atlanta, Georgia comes to mind, where they're gobbling up those homes between $200,000 and $400,000 whenever they can. Because I think they believe, Richard, that at some point the government is going to come along and pay the rent. That's what I think they believe, that they see the future, and the future is Section 8 for everybody. What are your thoughts?
So I think that that's part of that. The other question, though, is where are they getting all the money for this? Look, we think of those companies as having a lot, but they've got tight margins. Look, the real reason, I think, is because of the Fed. It's because the federal government has used housing as a tool of monetary policy, as a way of injecting newly printed cash into the market. The federal government has used housing as an investment more than a product, a thing you actually live in, which has enabled these companies to go in and buy it. It's enabled people to sit on their homes and build up equity in them. And it's distorted the housing market writ large. So I think, we're used to thinking of these companies coming in and buying housing, but it obscures the long train that starts with the federal government.
Yeah, it's about cash flow. Let's be honest. When private equity gets involved, regardless of the size of that private equity operation, it's about cash flow. That's why they buy up columns, be it veterinarian, HVAC, whatever it might be, right? They buy up these columns of businesses to create cash flow and to basically set the price in the market. You're saying they're doing the same thing in housing. So what can we do that's better? What would actually help the housing crunch in America? I don't believe the government being involved. And I hear people like those in California, we're going to build 200,000 units. Yeah, and those will be junk, and nobody's going to live there, and people are going to still be homeless. What is the real solution?
Well, and a lot of those houses are built with the low-income housing tax credit, yet another federal program. The real solution, I agree with you, you need government out of the way. The Fed, the Fannie and Freddie, those government entities need to stop using housing as a policy of monetary policy, as a way of empowering these large investors and banks to get involved at all. Look, we need reform of zoning laws. We need permitting processes to be gone. Half of the cost of new permits is the environmental reviews. A quarter of the cost of building a new home is just for these permitting process things at the state and federal level. And frankly, we need to get tariffs off of construction material. If you do all these reforms, you deregulate, you get the government out of the way, it'll drop the price of housing, allow the construction of a lot more housing units.
So regulatory problems, that's one thing that needs to be solved. Regulatory issues. Look, we know, I'm going to use California as an example again. Not a single house that I'm aware of has been rebuilt from the Palisades fire or the Malibu fire. Not one house has been rebuilt because of regulations and environmental studies and so on and so on and so on. We need to get that stuff out of the way. I like the comment about tariffs on building materials. Tariffs on Canadian lumber, for example. create a more expensive situation. But if I go to Home Depot today, lumber's cheaper today than it was before COVID for many of the pieces of building materials. So which materials are you most concerned with?
So it's still cheaper than that, but keep in mind, part of what was going down during COVID was trade issues because of the virus. But it's also all the other things, right? It's fasteners, it's drywall, concrete, the list goes on. But the other thing to keep in mind about this is you've got regulations on the labor side of it as well as the environmental side of it. You name it. I think a good example here is actually Austin, Texas. So Austin used to have incredibly high rents. Those have come down tremendously because it's one of the very few localities that have really done, soup to nuts deregulation. And that's brought in enormous amounts of construction. So you're right, while California is doing what California does, Austin's shown the way that you really can bring rents down, you really can build more housing. But the other problem is that interest rates have tripled because of the federal deficit. And again, part of that was COVID.
Yeah, well, that's an easy excuse for the increase in spending. The truth is these people can't control themselves. They say they want to reduce spending, but just not in their district. They want to bring all that money home to their district. So they talk a good game because it's an election year. We're $40 trillion in debt, 4 times that actually when you look at unfunded liabilities. The fact of the matter is these people can't control themselves at the local, state, or federal level. I think every state's broke too, just about, some far worse than others, Illinois, California, New York. We need to get our act together. I'll give you the last word.
Amen to that. Look, the national debt by itself is about $270,000 per American household. You're absolutely right. If you throw in the unfunded liabilities, it's $1 million per American household. Politicians like to promise free things and not tell you that the price tag is the debt, higher interest rates, and higher inflation because of it. But that is exactly what has made the cost of buying a new home triple when you look at the financing costs, not just the raw price of the home. So at the end of the day, all of these real economic problems stem from that, from politicians' false promises, from the debt, from the overexpansion of government. But, thank you as always for having me on.
Always, Richard. Greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you for shedding some light on this important topic, sir. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. What do you think about housing? What do you think the biggest problem is? Remember when they said you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You will own nothing. Well, I wouldn't be happy with owning nothing. I like owning a house. I like owning a car. I like owning my freedom and my right to choose. I like owning that a lot. Email me, stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. Email me with your thoughts. Always interested to hear from you all over this great country of ours. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, let's continue on now. I want to continue this conversation for a moment about the price, the debt, the challenges that people face, because they do. Is it anything new? You know, it's everything's amplified in this interconnected world. Everything that happens, you get to see in real time. Bam, there it is on your phone. Bam, here's a tweet, here's a post, here's a social media explanation, and then there's all this, right? So it's all right in your face all the time. But there's always been debt. People have always had challenges. People have had things foreclosed on my entire life. I mean, they made entire TV shows about people showing up and taking other people's cars or unpaid for cars or whatever. You've seen all that. But do you remember when, here's one of the problems. Government interference, creating a bigger problem when it comes to debt. And what do I mean by that? Well, do you remember when Barack Obama put the government in charge of student loans? He did that about 2010. And when I got a student loan when I was younger, I went to the bank, I signed the paperwork, and I agreed to the interest rate and all of that. But about 2010, the United States government took over 99% of all student loans. And what has happened? Well, let me give you an example. Here it is.
I'd like to know what type of crack Sally Mae is smoking that they think for the amount of $40,922, they should receive back $118,305.59. Well, I understand that this is an estimated cost. The fact that for financing the money, they want $77,383.59 is asinine. Now, back in my day when I was in college, I don't even think I paid that much for the 4 years I went to school. So to think they should get that for 1 year of schooling is insane. And I get it. If this is the fixed interest rate, 13.500%, and then the APR is 13.474%. But then they got the audacity to tell me that to finance this $40,922, they should receive $77,303.59 is the most SMD.
Yeah, it's remarkable. You know, and here's the thing. Talk to anybody who's had a student loan. I know a woman who has a student loan. She borrowed about $50,000. She's been paying on that loan for 15 years. The amount owed is about $50,000. You see, it was never there to benefit the student. It was there to create cash flow for the United States government and leverage and control. That's why it comes up in political campaigns. Hey, you vote for us and we'll help you out on that student loan, say the Democrats. And I think it's predatory. Look, the government should not be in the business of loaning anybody money like that, first of all. Shouldn't be involved. And then the government should not be in a position to loan shark, basically, which is how a lot of these student loans turn out. And it is absolutely wrong. Speaking of helping out the people, though, here's the opposite side of that coin. Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida trying to help people out with the most important thing that they own, their home. This is a movement going on across the country. And the Florida governor, he gets it. Listen.
Homeowners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so that's our vision. That represents about 30% of the overall property tax revenue because they still tax investment property, commercial property. And so this ballot measure will do an opening salvo of raising it, the exemption to $250, adjusted for inflation so they can't play games. That will be 60% of Florida homesteaders tax-free. Then as they raise it, the legislature will be able to raise that and have a process to do that. Once you get to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of homeowners, and then on it goes from there. But if we don't give homeowners relief, Maria, by 2032, they're going to be taking in $83 billion. So that would mean $32 billion in 2019. 13 years later, it goes to $83 billion. That is not sustainable. And so this is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank.
Home ownership should mean home ownership, not pay off your home and pay the government or they'll come take your house. Because that's how it works. You don't pay your property tax, they just come and take your house in a tax seizure. right? So, Ron DeSantis doing the right thing. You know, and when I look at the government getting involved, this bite popped up yesterday, and I thought, you know, that's just an incredibly telling story. Thomas Sewell says the welfare state is what has destroyed families in America, specifically worse than any other black families. Listen to this.
When they talk about things like this, they talk about the legacy of slavery.
Right.
And I argue, well, empirically, it's not that, it's the legacy of the welfare state. Because as of 1960, which is almost 100 years after slavery ended, the majority of black kids were being raised in two-parent households. But within one generation after the welfare state, that had dropped down to a minority. So that the majority of black kids today are raised in one-parent households. When you think about it, I mean, centuries of slavery and generations of Jim Crow did not destroy the black family, but one generation of the welfare state did.
Yeah, let that sink in. One generation of the welfare state destroying the families of America. Something to consider. For more than 3 years, I've been sharing with you all the amazing benefits of Patriots Relief CBD. These products have not only brought tremendous relief to Ivy and myself, but our dog Cody. Man, she got a lot out of it. We saw a change in that senior dog after giving her Patriots Relief CBD tincture. Significant relief, and allowed her to be more active in the last 2.5 years she was with us. Seeing the improvement in the quality of her life, it was great. It was. And let's be honest, she had no understanding of the tincture or what was going on. And if Cody could feel it, which was obvious, you can feel it. To learn more about what products may be best for you, pick up the phone, call Patriots Relief, 877-203-1776, or visit patriotsrelief.com. Sleep, anxiety, stress, CBD. 877-203-1776 or patriotsrelief.com. Right now, you're going to save 40% and get free shipping. 40% off today. patriotsrelief.com and free shipping. You can't beat that with a stick. I'll be right back. All right, President Trump is warning against obstruction of the $400 million White House ballroom and rooftop drone base, directly calling out U.S. District Judge Richard Leon for giving in to a serial plaintiff in a ridiculous lawsuit, putting U.S. national security at risk. The drone port at the White House ballroom will be perhaps the most sophisticated anywhere in the world, Trump wrote Sunday on Truth Social. It will safeguard our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., long into the future. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with America's security. Trump urged the judge to dismiss a lawsuit from a person he described as a highly litigious woman, warning the judge would be held responsible if an attack hits the White House. If anything happens, he will be held responsible for the death and destruction caused to our country. He's already created enough problems by allowing top secret information to be released and exposed based on a ridiculous lawsuit, starting with a highly litigious woman, serial plaintiff, whose strolling, in her opinion, will be disturbed by the new desperately needed structure. Her strolling will be impeded. In any event, a woman who has absolutely no standing. But here's what he points out. With the advent of highly sophisticated and powerful modern-day weaponry, we can no longer defend Washington, D.C. with rifles and pistols. This ridiculous lawsuit must be dismissed immediately. He's not wrong. This is politics run amok. They don't care. If a Democrat was building the ballroom, they would not file these lawsuits. You know that. I know that. We all know that, for God's sake. They file it just because they don't like Trump. Oh, you can't have a ballroom, $400 million. What about the American taxpayer? The American taxpayer isn't footing the bill, I might remind you. It's private money building the ballroom. Get out of the way, let it get done. The East Wing has already been taken out. The new ballroom under construction. Let's get it handled. And for obstructionist judges, they too can be impeached. They should be. If you're allowing lawsuits that are frivolous to impede the construction and, threaten American security, something ought to be done about it. Nice to see you on a Monday. We're going to take a break and be back. We got a lot more to cover here today. And Ivy will join us in the next hour after this.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
And welcome to it as we kick off another brand new hour here on a Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. We did. Weather was great. We got a chance to get out. Fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. As we've been talking about, number one, Graham Plattner really bogging down the Democrats in Maine. First, the Nazi tattoo, then his comments about Purple Heart recipients. Now, dirt coming out that he was sexting numerous women after he got married 3 years ago. Nice guy. Number two, still no deal in Iran, but there could be a breakthrough happening on the issue of nuclear material. If that happens, it could be what moves the needle toward peace. We'll see. And number three, I want to discuss something that we've been talking about here because Ivy and I talk about the food we eat and the supplements we take, all part of being as healthy as possible, make America healthy again. But what if that really is only part of the problem? Well, that we talk about that too. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you today.
Make Steve and Ivy healthy again.
Well, Ivy's trying to make Steve healthy again every day. And it's true. But I want you to listen to this. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Round says Maha is not just what we eat, but the clothes we wear, something we've talked about. Listen.
I've been on your show quite a bit talking about Maha and eating real food and getting real food back into school lunches. But I think this is the next step in the Maha movement with Secretary Kennedy is what we're wearing, what we're putting on our skin. And of course, ultimately, this goes back to the great American farmer, the great American cotton farmer, and making cotton great again in our country.
I love it.
And what she's referring to here are the microplastics and all of these synthetics that, are imported from India and China and all the other places that we outsourced all of our clothing manufacture to over the last several decades. America used to be the textile king of the world because of cotton and so forth, Ivy. But,
Absolutely.
You look at these clothes and all the plastics, and it also contributes to something else you see. You've seen these horrible pictures of India and so forth, right, with all the
trash.
The majority of that trash is what?
Plastic.
And clothing. Yeah.
Well, it's also that, fast fashion. When you have a lot of these companies that are selling clothing for very, very cheap, and people just buy an enormous amount of clothing, and they wear it for a few months, and then they give it away. And then the people that they give it away to, they can't find a home for it, and then it goes in the trash. And then the trash ends up, and where does all that plastic go that are in the clothing, right? Because polyesters and things like that. And actually, the synthetic fibers do shed tiny plastics when they're washed, dried, or worn, and those plastics can enter into waterways. And researchers have found that microplastics are in human blood, they're in lungs, they're in our tissues, and we still don't know the impact that it is having on our health long term. This is a fairly new phenomenon, but it's something to consider. Like, do we need to
Well, let me ask you something else. And Anthony, I want you to bring up bite number 8, please. Because this is something that people say these plastics are impacting.
Okay.
It's an important health consideration. Roll it.
We can't explain exactly why fertility is decreasing because, as you know, there are thousands of exposures that are endocrine disruptors that are disrupting it. But clearly plastics and microplastics are part of that picture.
Absolutely.
And male sperm counts, I think, in this country are down 50% for teenage males. I read the other day that teenage males today have less sperm than the average 65-year-old American man.
And how frightening is that?
And testosterone rates are dropping. And then
and it's not just men, by the way, Ivy. You know this. Egg production in women has dropped dramatically. Sperm production in men has dropped dramatically, and
we wonder,
Jr., of course.
And you wonder what type of environmental, pollutants or things that we're coming in contact with that are creating this fertility issue. Because you hear more and more that people are really struggling to have children, and this is part of that. I know that some places that I've read really recommend only wearing cotton underwear. And in organic cotton, make sure that you do your research on that, because even so, if it's just a a cotton fiber, it doesn't mean it didn't go through some pretty heavy, chemical treatments before it came out of manufacturing. So you definitely want to do some research on that. But that could be one cause. But also what you're drinking, what you're putting in your body, the poisonous foods that you put into your body as well.
And let's not overlook the fact that, cloud seeding and all of this has gone on since the 1930s. It's still active today. And that's, look, we're getting bombarded with chemicals, whether it's PFAS or microplastics or the COVID vaccine. I mean, just go right down the list. Go ahead.
You cannot get around plastics. It seems everything comes in a, either a plastic bag or a plastic container or everything. It just seems like has some sort of plastic involved with it. And even like, your plastic water jugs that kids are using for sports, you wonder, is that really having an effect? So I think it's a tough one. How do we get out of this contamination from our products? And there are BPA-free water bottles and things like that. But it is tough. It's a tough thing to do. And I can see how you parents can get very easily overwhelmed.
Let me give you another statistic that I just heard. And and I think we're right down the same alley.
Yeah.
Autism has gone from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 100 to 1 in 37. Yeah. There are predictions now that by 2032 or 2035, not very long from now, it could impact half of the young people. Half. Yeah. Look, that's got to be environmental. It has to be.
Well, is it environmental? And it's being compounded by what you're eating,
and
wearing. So if you are not having a good diet, I think still the really number one priority needs to be exercising regularly, maintaining a healthy diet, sleeping well, and avoiding toxins. And hey, yes, get some, especially cotton underwear, things that are coming in contact with you, those areas that are really important for reproduction. So those are the small things that you can do.
I like how you danced around that. That was cute.
Yes. But also just try to minimize your uses of plastic and be conscientious about what you're doing.
Absolutely true. And you mentioned
a good air purifier.
That's not a bad idea. How many billions of plastic bottles? You buy water at the gas station. You have the bottles, like you say, the kids are using for sports. You've got all these plastics everywhere.
That's right.
It has to have an impact, and maybe on fertility, maybe on health. People talk about brain fog all the time.
Oh, yeah.
What's microplastic doing to your brain?
Well, sure. I also think that's probably has to do with a lot of your sugar intake and also grains. The amount of grains that you're eating. Are you having enough protein? Are you getting enough sleep? There's so many factors. I don't think it's just one thing. But just monitoring what you're putting in your mouth, and if you're taking care of your body, definitely something to keep aware of.
Stuff we need to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this is something that we talk about regularly here, and I think that people do talk about this because they're see
becoming
the
more
health
aware
impacts.
of it.
Yeah, and awareness is step one. So we're willing to talk about it, whether it's coming from the plastics, from the sky, from the water, from all of it. And don't worry, Ivy will make sure I get my vitamins today, so I've got that going for me.
You know it.
Absolutely true, Ivy. Love you.
Love you.
Trying to talk about the things that impact you the most. That's what we do here every single day. This is Daybreak. All right, welcome back to it as we continue on now. We've talked about this a bit in the last few days because Donald Trump continues to endorse and he continues to win. 118 for 118. 100% endorsement rate. I don't think I've ever heard such a thing. So when you say MAGA is dead, clearly it is not. The people that he supports, even if they're controversial, like Ken Paxton is in Texas, they win anyway. Dwayne Moore is a renowned grassroots activist, published author, GOP strategist, and the founder of the CEO of the Dwayne Moore Foundation. He joins me now. Dwayne, nice to see you.
Hey, good morning, Steve. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me back on the show.
Always good to have you, my friend. Listen, these primary wins, they're impressive, but it doesn't mean you're going to win the general election. Now, look, I think Ken Paxton's going to win. They're going to have to spend more money in Texas to overcome some of his... he's got some baggage. But the fact of the matter is he's going to win. There's a terrible Democrat running, and so that doesn't hurt. And the Democrats this year have selected some really awful candidates. Graham Plattner, Abdul El Sayed, James Tallarico. That does help, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, that I think has always been, it's good for the Republican Party, but bad for the Democrat that they never have someone that can really compete with the Republican Party. I don't know why they just don't throw the towel in. Obviously, as you just said, Texas, Kentucky, Georgia, and Louisiana was some major states for us. I'm still kind of concerned about Georgia. I'm not concerned about Texas. Well, you're absolutely right. When you look at the numbers, you can see 101 House seats, 9 Senate seats, and 8 gubernatorial endorsement. It seemed like it's a win-win for the Republican Party, but we're still not out the water. As Donald Trump, our great president, always said, we got to continue to fight.
Absolutely true. You talk about Georgia. What concerns you there? I think John Ossoff is going to be up against it regardless of who, the Republicans would have put up. He's not a strong candidate. It was a fluke that he ever got the Senate seat. I think it's a fluke that Georgia got 2 Democrat Senate seats, to be honest with you. It's not a blue state. They can believe all they want, and Democrats believe that they're realigning the South. I don't think so. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm concerned about Georgia, especially some of the, you're right, it's not a battleground state, a swing state, but the thing that concerns me, there's a lot of rural areas in Georgia do have blue pockets and blue seats. My concern is not the primary. Do I think we could have selected better to represent the Republican Party in the primary of Georgia? I don't know. I don't know much about the guy, but what I do realize is that on the Democrat side, you got Keisha Lance Bottoms, who was a former mayor of Atlanta, and she's going to reach a lot in the grassroots efforts when it relates to rural Georgia as well as inner city urban Georgia. That is a concern of mine because even though we've been winning with the amount of endorsements that we've seen Trump put out there this year, but I think Georgia is going to be kind of tricky. A couple of years ago, I don't know how Herschel Walker didn't win that Senate seat against Warnock, but again, I don't know. It's going to be challenging in Georgia.
What states? I look at Maine. I talked about it at length at the top of the program today. Graham Plattner is an absolute disaster for the Democrats currently in Maine. They thought they could pick off Susan Collins. Of course, they always think they can pick off Susan Collins, but she has maybe the best machine of any senator in America because she's involved in Maine. She's on the street. She's shaking hands. She's out there with the people, and she always has been. She's not somebody who went to Washington and disappeared. And I think that bodes well for Susan Collins. Your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right. Here's been the biggest challenge for the Republican Party, and I've said this from years going all the way back to like the Reagan-Bush days, is we don't put much in grassroots efforts. We don't put much in town hall efforts. The one thing about the Democrats, and something that we're seeing in Maine, they get out, they knock doors, they get out, they geo-fence, they do a lot of geo-framing work when it relates to galvanizing robust programming to immerse themselves when it relates from the campaign standpoint of view, when it relates to grassroots efforts. In states like Maine, if you're going to win, you got to get out and you got to share the message with the American people, because I can tell you just over the last year going into the midterm, people are concerned not only about the economy, but about the security and the protection of the United States of America. So again, if we're going to do good in that state, and I've talked to a couple of the gubernatorial campaigners, candidates there in Maine, and I think it's going to be tough to swing Maine.
It is for the Democrats, tough for them to swing away from Susan Collins, I think. That's my take. Let's talk about Michigan. Abdul El Sayed is the Democrat candidate. Mike Rogers, most likely for that Senate seat that's open. Abdul El Sayed, another bad candidate for the Democrats, my estimation. Look, I live here in Michigan. And do I see some El Sayed signs? I do, but I saw Kamala Harris signs as well. That didn't mean a thing in the long run, and I think that he's just too fringe. I don't think that the state of Michigan is going to say that's what we want. We want an anti-Semite who hates America and hangs out with Hassan Piker. I don't think that is a winning message at all. Your thoughts?
I don't think it's a winning message either, but we just seen what happened with the mayoral race in New York. I mean, it blew me away. I mean, because some of the things that I heard when it relates to that political campaign in the mayoral race in New York, it was mind-blowing for me that they selected the candidate to become their next mayor. So, yes, Michigan is a battleground state. I've been there. I was just in Ann Arbor, which is very liberal. It's hard sometimes to believe that there's many Republicans that lives in the state of Michigan, but it is. There's a lot of Republicans that lives in the state of Michigan. I think that's going to be a challenging race. Again, in so many areas of even Michigan, where it is a lot of Republicans, there's still a lot of liberals. There's still a lot of independents. So obviously, it's why it's called a swing state, because we got to be able, from a grassroots standpoint of view, from the Republican Party, we got to be able to swing those votes based off a powerful message of bringing the American people first and being able to galvanize our economy and the protection and security of our American citizens. So if we're going to win in Michigan, I don't think it's going to be a landslide.
No, they'll all be close races. I just think on balance, the Republicans have a chance to pick up a seat in Georgia and a seat in Michigan. We'll see how it plays out. Dwayne, always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
No, thank you, Steve.
Greatly appreciated. Dwayne Moore, everybody. I'm going to take a break here and be back. Remember, you can always email me. What's going on in your state, politically speaking, as we head to the midterms? What are you feeling? It's important what you feel, because people want to vote for a winner. And oftentimes that'll swing a vote. Not based on facts, just based on attitude. SteveGruber.com, the place to send those emails. I look forward to reading them. I'll be right back. All right, coming up, 9 o'clock this morning, Ivy and I sit down with political commentator and Turley Talks host Dr. Steve Turley to discuss why millions of Americans are losing trust in the institutions that once defined our lives, from government surveillance and big tech censorship to AI, digital control, and the growing populist backlash. Turley says Americans are waking up to a system that feels more powerful, more intrusive, and more overbearing than ever before. Listen.
So if you think about it, you're always going to have the elite. You're always going to have rich. You're always going to have the top 1%. But if that top 1% are simply governing for their own interests and their own values and their own concerns, then they do in effect become an oligarchy, or as Sanders would say, oligarchy, right? I mean, they end up becoming more or less a monarchy that tells them to eat their cake or drive their Teslas, or they just ignore the will of the people. But it could go the other way. If the will of the people rise up and destroy that oligarchy, well, then you get the French Revolution. That's not much better either. There's a lot of chaos in that. So what Aristotle had recommended is that you have to have something like what Deneen calls an aristopopulism operative in society. You're always going to have that elite, but it is the responsibility of the elite to realize and to cultivate and protect the values, interests, and concerns of the people.
Dr. Steve Turley, that episode drops this morning, 9 a.m. on YouTube. You can become a subscriber for free. Smash that like button. Become part of the movement here. You're going to love these Forgotten America podcasts. Go ahead and check that out this morning at 9 on YouTube. Just look up Steve Gruber. It's one thing for a bank to say they support our servicemen and women. It's another to prove it. Old Glory Bank is proud to stand with our military and their families by offering Old Glory Protect. It's a $100,000 line of death benefit they offer free to their customers. It's a meaningful way they express gratitude for those who protect this country. Learn more at oldglorybank.com/Rav. oldglorybank.com/Rav. Get in line with a bank that's in line with you. How about that? oldglorybank.com/Rav. I'll be back after this. Let me give you some numbers here as we head into my next conversation. Eligible voters from the Hispanic community in 2026, 36 million. The Republican gain among Latino voters since 2012, 12 points. Latino midterm turnout rate about 54%, so about 20 million. And Senate seats where the Latino vote can be decisive, 4 is the number. Helder Tosti is a conservative analyst and director of the federal affairs for the Libra Initiative. He joins me now. Helder, nice to see you today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
For anybody who doesn't know, tell them what the Libra Initiative is.
So we are a limited government organization where we work with Latinos from across the country to tell them a little bit about how getting government out of people's lives can actually make your lives better.
All right, so it's incredibly important that this swing of Hispanic voters was clearly evident in 2024. Donald Trump got more Hispanic votes than any Republican in history because it seems that the Hispanic voters realize that they're more conservative, more faith-based, family-based, believe in this country and the possibilities of this country more than the Democrat Party. Where am I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong, which is great. Ronald Reagan said, Latinos are Republican, they just don't know it yet. And one of those aspects has been this sort of President Trump, has very gradually continued to grow the support of the Latinos. Republicans in particular have also, conservatives really have been the main group that has started to bring in Latinos. And, we hit a high during George Bush's presidency in 2004 of 40% support. And now, in the 2024 election, we had 50%. And so a lot of it has been a few things. It's not just that Hispanics are more conservative. Many of them leave from countries that are socialist, communist, have a variety of public security issues, economic issues. And people think just Cuba, but Mexico has these issues, Peru has these issues. There were elections in Colombia yesterday where the president is already saying that maybe he's going to nullify those election results. And so people come here to want to work really hard and contribute. These are people that are faith-based. And once they get to our country, they realize that America is a wonderful place to be. If you have deep family values, you believe in God, and you want to be able to contribute in a meaningful way.
We're only 5 months out now, as it's June 1st, from the midterm elections, about 5 months now. And this is going to be a big race. The Hispanic vote in some places is more consequential. Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. Obviously, that Senate seat in Texas, consequential. And you talk about real faith. And so when the Democrat, James Tallarico, talks about God being non-binary, or that he said abortion was acceptable because Mary gave consent, or something just bizarre to me. And to most people of faith, it's bizarre talk from a guy who claims to be a pastor, but clearly his theology is politics and not the Bible. What do you make of the race in Texas? And what other big races are you watching that you think the Hispanic vote could be the difference maker?
Yeah, I mean, look, the race in Texas, I think Tallarico is a bit of a gift that keeps on giving. The more they keep finding out about him and his family, that's just like, I think your average Texan, and especially your average Latino Texan that has been there for, many of them have been there for many, many generations. They're not going to be thrilled to hear about this. And I think that's going to be your biggest challenge. Texas is a huge state, obviously the second largest by population in the country. It has many media markets. And one of the big issues with Latinos is that they have a tendency to not be as plugged in as other audiences. You touched on it, about 54, sometimes 60% of us in a very good year will vote. And so a big question is, you can have flawed candidates that are obviously deeply ideologically concerning. But the question is, how do you make sure that your everyday voter, everyday constituent that's, working, making ends meet, especially in places like the Rio Grande Valley, where there has been a dramatic increase in quality of life, especially as it relates to things like the border security, to remind them, hey, you are better off now in these ways, and this person would actually push us in the opposite direction. And that's going to be the biggest challenge, is making sure that these audiences don't slip, so that they can be excited about the conservative nominees, but most importantly, that they want to actually go vote. And so I think that takes us to the whole Senate map. What people don't realize is, in a place like, you said it right on the head, in Arizona and Texas and New Mexico, even Florida, we're a huge voting population. But there's also 1 million Latinos in North Carolina. There's 1 million Latinos in Georgia. There's over 500,000 in Michigan. President Trump won 50% of the Latino vote in Michigan. And when we have a Senate seat right now that is open, where Republicans have someone like Mike Rogers running there for that seat, it's going to be so important that he either maximizes those gains or secures those gains that the president had, or finds new supporters. And so, a lot of times in a place like North Carolina, where President Trump won that state by 3.5 points, it's going to be so crucial for the nominee, Michael Watley, to find those voters that supported the president, get them back out there, because these are margin states. And so that's where I think people should be more engaged with the Latino vote, because, sure, they're kingmakers in Hispanic states, but they can also very well be kingmakers in states that are less traditionally seen as Hispanic. The best example of this was actually Pennsylvania. So there were towns that are 50, 60, 80% Hispanic: Allentown, Pennsylvania; Reading, Pennsylvania; Bethlehem, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. They shifted over 20 points towards Republicans, and it helped not only the president win, but Senator McCormick was able to flip that seat from an entrenched incumbent, relatively useless Democrat senator, Bob Casey. And so that's just part of the dynamic that we're dealing with. And I think it's also just a lot of opportunity, because you want to be able to hold on to those gains. You want to be able to grow that support. And so it's going to require a lot of grassroots. You said it, 5 months away. Here we go.
Yeah, I want to ask about Pennsylvania a little bit. Does that bleed into Ohio? And I ask that because Sherrod Brown, who is also an entrenched Democrat, he's coming back trying to regain the seat that he lost in the state of Ohio. I don't think he's doing particularly well. He's just so old school left of center that I think the state of Ohio, which is not a swing state at all, 20 years ago it was, it's not now, nor is Florida, to be honest. These states become more red all the time. What happens in the race in Ohio, real quick?
Yeah, I mean, Ohio has around 400,000 Latinos in particular, but Sherrod Brown is really a symptom of the Democrat machine. These are people that have only ever done politics their whole life. They can't re-enter civil society and contribute meaningfully. All they need to do is find that next thing to run for. There's a reason that Democrat Senate leadership and House leadership is old. There's a reason Dianne Feinstein died in office. They have had 5 House Democrats die in office this year alone in their 70s and 80s. And so, one, it's been like, it's an unbelievable thing to have so many people dying in office. But it also shows you that frankly, the reason they got rid of Sherrod Brown last time, and they're going to reject him again, is because they know this is the only thing he can do. The only thing he can do is be a politician, and we need real people in these seats. And the truth is, Senator Husted is a great guy. He's out there in the community. He's going to be defending that seat. And I think realistically, he has what it takes to win again, like you said, in a state that is becoming more red, but also he's a good candidate. So,
Helder, greatly appreciate talking to you. Good conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes, sir. We'll hit a break and be right back on Daybreak. You know, I can't help but continue to look at these candidates because the Democrats, as Helder, my last guest, just said, James Tallarico is the gift that keeps on giving, and so are a lot of them. Whether it's Abdul El Sayed in Michigan or Graham Plattner. And Graham Plattner, there's people in Maine in the Democrat Party in full-on panic now because this guy just continues to, self-destruct. And he continues to demonstrate he has no business at all being a United States senator. He shouldn't be dog catcher. But some on the left continue to support him. Some Democrat senators can't help it. Here's an example.
The campaign for Graham Plattner confirmed to CBS on Saturday that the Maine Senate candidate had sent sexually explicit texts to women other than his wife. This is in addition to other past controversies. Does he pass the character test?
Yeah, I mean, I have not followed this story as closely as others have, but I mean, Graham Plattner is somebody that served our country. He served his community. He's also made mistakes, and he has admitted that. Character also involves standing up to people who are bankrupting and corrupting this country. And this race is going to be a contrast between somebody that has put his life on the line for this country against somebody that is literally empowering the moral hollowing out of our nation from the White House. So he certainly admitted that he has made mistakes, but I think this is going to be a pretty clear contrast.
Enough. Chris Murphy has been hollowed out morally and has no character. Obviously. Well, he's made mistakes. He wore a Nazi tattoo for almost 20 years. And as we heard a comment earlier, it means he got out of the shower every day and looked at it. That's a choice. That's not a youthful indiscretion. That's a choice to hold that on your chest. Cory Booker, a bit more concerned about Graham Plattner, but not too much. Here he is.
Let me ask you, do you have concerns with the weight of all these controversies that it may jeopardize Democratic hopes to get that Senate seat in Maine?
Yeah, I have concerns. That guy has questions to answer, and that's what campaigns are for.
He has questions to answer. Yeah, how'd you like that Nazi tattoo on your chest for 20 years? There's a question for you. How do you like the fact that you said a Purple Heart recipient deserved to die? How about that? Oh, and here's more about when you talk about character or whatever. You just got married. You've been married for like 15 minutes, and you're sexting a whole bunch of women. That's the latest dirt. Here it is.
I want to ask you about the Senate race in Maine. And the Wall Street Journal and New York Times reporting that last August, Democrat Graham Plattner's wife told his campaign about sexual text messages she had found between her husband and other women early in their marriage, and they were married in 2023. The Times says Plattner exchanged messages with as many as a dozen women, and his campaign said, no, it was up to 6. In a statement, Plattner's wife said she feels betrayed by the ex-campaign aide who revealed the information and that the couple went to counseling. Do you have concerns about Graham Plattner?
Well, first I'll say is, I've been very much focused on the crisis in my home state, so I haven't been able to focus as much on this. But right now, this information's out there with any campaign in the country. The character and the transparency about the different candidates is going to come out. That's part of a campaign. And the voters will decide what it is that they ultimately think in terms of their ability to trust those candidates.
What do you think?
Well, look, right now, for me, I have not met him. I've never talked to him yet.
I don't know this guy. I've never talked to him. I don't know what he's up to. I want nothing to do with him. Senator Andy Kim running for the nearest exit. By the way, Plattner's wife says she's angry, not about the sexting to 6 women or 12 or however many it was. She's just mad that somebody's talking about it. Here she is weighing in as the good wife.
Makes me really angry, disappointed, and I find it really shameful that there's a group of media outlets and people who are willing to spread gossip instead of talking about real issues that Graham is running on, like healthcare and education and childcare. I just really wanted to make sure that everyone knows that
he's a great guy.
Graham and I have a great marriage. Yeah. Being married is hard.
Yeah, being married is hard, especially to a guy who's sexting half a dozen other women right after you got married. I mean, it's hard, all right. Really hard. All right, did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity? Cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing. House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, they don't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff, they're after your equity. If your title is not being monitored, scammers can transfer the title out of your home into their name using a one-page document they file at the county, then take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. And the scariest part, you don't know this. You don't know it until collections notices start arriving in your mailbox. But by then, the damage has been done. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid, if the worst happens, restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. You can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not already a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com now. Use the promo code Gruber. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber, HomeTitleLock.com. Make sure you are protected. All right, coming up, Brock Palmbush is in the on-deck circle to bring you the latest in sports on Daybreak. All right, let's check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There was a full schedule of games in Major League Baseball yesterday. American League winners included Tampa Bay, the Chicago White Sox, and Seattle. National League winners included Washington, Milwaukee, and San Francisco. At the French Open in Paris, fourth-round action began on the clay. On the men's side, second-seeded Alexander Zverev moved on to the quarterfinals with a 4-set win. On the women's side, four-time champion and third-seeded Iga Swiatek was upset by Marta Kostyuk in straight sets, 7-5 and 6-1. Fourth-round action continues today on the red clay of Roland Garros. In golf, Russell Henley beat Eric Cole in a playoff to win the Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas. And in NASCAR, Denny Hamlin won the Cracker Barrel 400 at Nashville Speedway in Tennessee for his second victory of the year. And also in IndyCar, Alex Palou won the Grand Prix of Detroit. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Don't we have a NASCAR race coming up in Michigan, Brock?
The Firekeepers 400 coming up this coming weekend. Yep.
Firekeepers 400. I've got tickets.
Good for you.
Weird. I've never seen a NASCAR race. Not in person.
Are you taking the lovely and talented Ivy with you?
She knows more about cars than I do. Why wouldn't I? Yeah.
So I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, she's going. Anthony's actually going to the Saturday event. Yeah. We're going to the Sunday event.
Cool.
Yeah, NASCAR.
Yeah.
It's just too bad that there's only one event there now. There used to be two NASCAR races and an IndyCar race. Now there's just one NASCAR race.
Why is that? It's a good track.
I know. I like MIS. I've been there before. It's fun.
Good track. All right, NASCAR fans, I'm going to go get into, what do they call it? Pit lane, all that.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, we've got pretty good access from our friends at Patriot Mobile.
Oh, there you go.
So I think we'll have a good experience. Loud. I'm going to have to bring earplugs, I hear. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I can't hear anything. Huh? Anyhow, NASCAR fans, that's going to bring us to the checkered flag of hour 2 as we come through the finish line. Whew. Anyhow, make sure you email me.
Steve. Nice segue.
Nicely done. Email me, stevegruber.com. We read them all, respond to as many as we can. But tell me what's happening in your neck of the woods. What do we need to cover around here? What's on your mind? stevegruber.com. And don't forget the new podcast dropping at 9 a.m. on YouTube. Just look up Steve Gruber for the next episode of Forgotten America.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, let's jump right into it as we continue here. Hour number 3 here on Daybreak. Glad you're along for the conversation. Here are 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, in Los Angeles, Karen Bass appears to liken Spencer Pratt to Donald Trump because he's gaining ground and looks like he could win that thing. Number 2, more strikes traded with Iran as the divided regime has no idea who's in charge. And number 3, we were up north at the Northern Compound in Michigan over the weekend. And as I have been telling you for a year and a half now, Michigan will at some point in the near future, maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe the following year, but sometime in the near future, relatively speaking, we're going to see a wildfire in Michigan like we have not seen since 1881. Historically, you have to go back to the big fires of 1871 and 1881, giant fires in Michigan. It was in the aftermath of the logging industry, of course, but because of that giant ice storm in January of last year, there are so many broken trees and debris and fuel, and it's dry, and it's windy. And I keep getting alerts on my phone that, wildfires are coming because they are. And you know what the climate people will say? Oh, my gosh, it's climate change. No, it's an ice storm. And trust me, we've had those for millennia. Bad weather. Weather's getting worse. No, it's not. We have not had an F5 tornado in my state of Michigan since 1973. We haven't seen an F5 since 19... And we just passed May, and I was thinking about this. You should think about this, too. How many big tornado outbreaks were there in May of 2026? May is the worst year for tornadoes in America, historically speaking. Always has been. May is the worst because you've got that early hot air coming in from the Gulf of America, and then you've got all the cold air coming down from Canada, and they collide, and they create big storms and big tornado outbreaks, right? I don't remember one last month. Do you? I want you to think about that. But the fire danger in Michigan is profound right now. Profound. Yeah, I mean, there is literally thousands of square miles devastated by that ice storm last year. And because of that, you have all this buildup. And we had a dry year at the end of last year, which dried everything out. It was pretty dry last year. Mild drought conditions. Well, the same thing seems to be happening now. We haven't seen rain in a bit. And because of that, you've got all this tinder dry fuel ready to go. One lightning strike, one errant fire at a homeowner, a campfire, some idiot that wants to set it on fire intentionally, like you see in California. Whatever it takes, when that fire goes, it's going to go. And big wind and big storms will drive those fires across Michigan. You have been warned, my friends, and you will hear about it. So smoke jumpers, be prepared. You're going to see northern Michigan, and I hope that northern Michigan survives because it's going to be quite something when it happens, and that's my prediction. Meanwhile, here's a prediction for you. Gretchen Whitmer is going to run for president. Now, she said last weekend she would not. She said last weekend she would not. It's the biggest lie you'll hear today. Gretchen Whitmer saying she won't run for president. Listen to this.
But I'm also looking forward to taking a little bit of a break and thinking about it, not jumping right into something. As I've gotten counsel from people who've made the transition, whether it was my friend Gina Raimondo, who I sat with last night for a little bit, Pete Buttigieg, or Paul Ryan, who I have chatted with a fair amount. That's the advice everyone says, take a little bit of time. And so that's what I'm going to do.
There's time until 2028, yes?
Of course there's time. I think there will be a robust group of people running for president. I will not be one of them in 2028, I can tell you that.
Thank you so much, Governor.
By the way, she came right back early last week and said, well, never say never, I should never say I'm not going to run. Of course she's going to run. So that's just a foolish thing for her to say. Now, what's she going to run on? The fact that Michigan has a negative net migration, people are leaving the state, that she was the only state in America to raise personal income taxes in the last couple of years, that education in Michigan has fallen so far it's in the mid-40s now. Job creation is falling. Unemployment is stagnant. They don't think there'll be a job increase in Michigan for the next 10 years. That's another lost decade. What's she going to run on? The success of Michigan under her leadership? Come on. But she'll be in the race. Mark my words. That's one of the easier predictions. And so will Pete Buttigieg, who she mentioned there, because a guy who ran South Bend, Indiana, should run the country. Right. A guy who ran the transportation department into the ground should run the country. Give me a break. That's insanity defined. One of the things we saw in northern Michigan, Ivy and I were up walking a property yesterday afternoon. And what did we find an abundance of? Ivy, what did we find? Ticks. Lots of ticks. We were driving home. They kept picking them off me, throwing them out the window. And it wasn't a concern. But there's been an explosion in the tick population across America this year. Some would wonder why that is. Maybe it's just a bad tick year, or maybe there's something more to it. And here's something very unusual I want you to think about. Because Pfizer magically has a Lyme disease vaccine available. Isn't that remarkable? An explosion in ticks, and Pfizer's right there to help you out. Listen to this.
So is this vaccine available now?
This vaccine is not available now. It should be available in a few months. I have a feeling with this spotlight, they may fast track it. It's a completely safe vaccine based on older technology. It's not something that we don't know about. It's using proteins and basically peptides to target the Lyme, part of the proteins on the Lyme Borrelia, it's called, the bacteria itself. Very, very, very promising. It's going to be useful. Last time we had a Lyme vaccine, nobody took it. This vaccine is safe, effective. I think we're going to get a lot of use out of it.
Here's the problem. Even if he's right, and maybe he is, but even if he's right, who's going to roll up their sleeve for another vaccine after what happened in COVID? And that was one of the warnings that I gave you when the COVID vaccine was proven to be not safe and not effective and creating all sorts of long-term problems, including death for some people within a day or two. It means that people will not trust vaccines, any of them. You violated the public trust in such a way that people will not line up and roll up their sleeve for a Lyme disease vaccine or a alpha-gal vaccine. That's the illness that makes you allergic to red meat if bitten by certain ticks, like the Lone Star tick. Now, we don't have a lot of Lone Star ticks where I live, but in the southern United States, you do. 450,000 Americans now with alpha-gal. And Lyme disease, also something that's concerning. Look, Lyme disease is not curable. It's treatable, but not curable. But like I said, when you roll out these claims about efficacy and safety, people look at it and go, I don't believe you. Not after what they went through with COVID. People do not believe it. I'm not getting a Lyme disease vaccine because I don't trust them. Who would trust Pfizer at this point in the conversation? Anybody? I don't know. I don't trust it. And I'm like a lot of you. I don't trust it. Send me your thoughts at stevegruber.com. Would you take a Lyme disease vaccine? Would you? Let me know at stevegruber.com. I'll be right back. All right, let's jump right back into it. Energy prices around this country, and I'm not talking about gas, I'm talking about electricity. All these promises of renewable energy seem to be failing miserably. And the price of your electric bill, good Lord, just continues to go through the roof. Sarah Montalbano is the energy policy analyst at Always On Energy Research, where she researches and writes about energy and natural resources, also a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum Center for Energy and Conservation. Sarah, thank you for being here.
Steve, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
This renewable energy thing doesn't seem to be working out. The windmills and solar panels, wildly expensive, subsidized by taxpayers, and the electric bills around here keep going up. But the problem, one of the problems for me, are these big energy companies. I mean, they are controlling all of our energy costs with support from our elected leaders and others, and they've got, control over everything. And there's little we can do about it, it seems, because they keep asking for rate increases in Michigan and elsewhere and keep getting them, almost unabated. Where am I wrong?
I think you're on the money in a lot of this, and utilities are becoming the bipartisan boogeyman of this issue, this electricity bills issue, because a lot of them are awarded regulated monopolies. They are allowed to take what they would like to earn to the Public Utilities Commission in whatever state they're in, and they get to say, hey, this is our rate base. Here is what we're building. Here's what we're going to need to recoup from customers. And I think there's Republicans and Always On Energy Research have known this for quite a while, that there's a rate base and there's a rate of return. But I think Democrats are now starting to focus their messaging on it as well. And there's a lot of things that utilities are spending on, but a lot of it right now is wind and solar, because Michigan, as well as many other states, have renewable energy and clean energy standards, which mandate that rate base. So it's a tricky situation all around.
So why do we allow these monopolies to control our energy? Why is that the policy? And it's not just here, it's across this country. And I don't care what state you go to. You have these massive energy monopolies controlling, and like I say, going to the state legislature and saying, hey, we need a rate increase. Well, you just got one. We need another one, and another one, and another one. And these energy monopolies, they're thrilled when you bulldoze a coal-fired power plant, because they get to build a new plant and send you and I the bill, Sarah. They don't mind it a bit, do they?
Yeah, what tends to happen with this is that you retire the depreciated assets, the ones that ratepayers are no longer paying for. And then utilities propose, oh, we're going to do this more cleanly. We're going to build a solar plant. And so much of it is due to the fact that solar and wind have low capacity factors. They only run 25% of their maximum output on average. And that means you have to build way more of it. So utilities in a lot of states have not had any problem with clean energy mandates, even though I think in some ways they know that this is going to make it more difficult for them to deliver reliable electricity. It's been very much a gravy train, as we've seen in the past 5-10 years. And the unfortunate part is, for today's consumers, those decisions were made 5 or 10 years ago. They're still recouping costs from plants built 5 to 10 years ago. And so I think a lot of it is baked into the pie now. And when we're talking about monopoly utilities, they're often in some ways the least bad of a couple options. It's very difficult to have a fully competitive market for electricity, because you can't just say, oh, I'm going to, switch my lines that go to my house over to a new provider. It's simply so much infrastructure that this is a hot topic, I think, in the energy space, is what's the alternative? And I think no one really knows.
Yeah. So there's just no relief in sight for the consumer. That's the problem, sir. I don't see any relief. I don't see any actual work being done to say, hey, let's cool it on the rate increases. I don't know what the bottom line for DTE or consumers is, but I'm pretty sure they're not going broke, Sarah. I'm pretty sure they're in the black. Your thoughts?
I think it's difficult because politics is coming up with a couple of solutions, and from the Democrat side of things, at least in Michigan, it seems like there's proposals to freeze the rate increases or to freeze the rate of return on equity or to lower it even. And I think that solves the one side of the problem, or at least makes an attempt to, but it's a percentage. It's applied to a rate base. And frankly, the rate bases have exploded due to these clean energy mandates. And so I think a holistic solution on this would really look like pulling back on this mandated generation, let utilities build reliable, dispatchable plants, and to keep them for a long time, because that's how you get cheap energy for the consumer. The other part of that is simply to stop retiring older depreciated assets like coal-fired plants that have been on the books for a long time, and ratepayers have already paid them off. Let them continue to generate electricity, and you will find that things are a little better for the consumer. But it really is tough because so much of it has been baked in 5 to 10, 15 years ago even.
Yeah, as we head to, when are we, this clean energy thing by 2040? That's the path we're on as people flee Michigan and flee the regulation and flee the high prices. I think that we need to revisit these things. Sarah, good talking to you. Greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. What do you think about the energy policies of your state? Honestly, renewable energy, it renews their ability to bill you over and over again in an ever-increasing rate of return for those folks. But what about you? The politicians, well, they're not looking out for the folks, it doesn't seem to me. We can do better, and we should do better. I'll take a break and be back. So what's happening if Michigan's getting smaller and Illinois is getting smaller, New York's getting smaller, and California is definitely getting smaller? Who's booming? Well, Florida, Tennessee, Texas. They're all booming because of better tax policies and better opportunities. The fastest growing city in America is Salina, Texas. You've probably never heard of it, Salina, Texas. It has increased in size 25% year over year. That means 1 in 4 people living in Salina, Texas, it's about an hour north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. 1 in 4 people living there did not live there last year or a year ago. And the infrastructure is feeling the demands. People want to get out of these giant cities and find more room, more opportunities, better schools, better everything. The mayor there is Ryan Tubbs. He says, we have a lot of road construction going on, a lot of new sewer and water lines, just all different infrastructure projects getting ready to service our residents of the future. Well, the residents of the future seem to be there already. And this is happening all over North Texas, by the way, and Tennessee, and Florida, and South Carolina, the fastest growing state in America. Things are changing. Demand is increasing. And populations are flowing in. Populations that, like I said, weren't there a year ago. Yeah, when the Palmetto State, South Carolina, is the fastest growing in America. And why is that? Well, because they're going toward zero income tax. Tennessee and Texas and Florida are already there. The states that have zero income tax and opportunity for their residents are seeing a massive inflow. Michigan, the only state in America to raise income tax that I'm aware of in the last couple of years. And how's that working out? Your roads are in bad shape. Your taxes are too high. You know, the state of Indiana today has the lowest gas prices. Why? Because the governor there suspended gas taxes during the increase in gas prices because of the ongoing conflict in Iran. And now Indiana has gas is $1.20 less than Illinois next door, 75 cents less than Ohio to the east. I mean, and much cheaper than Michigan too. If you live near Indiana, I suggest you drive to Indiana to get your gas. $3.65, the state average in Indiana today, and falling. You can probably find it for less than $3.50 in Indianapolis and elsewhere. Yeah. Good policies lead to good outcomes. Bad policies, well, I think you get it. I'll be right back. All right, let's get back to it now. Jobs in America. Jobs that are AI-proof, if you will. Swinging a hammer, putting on a roof, HVAC, all of those things. Building houses, yeah, they can do these 3D printed houses, but you still need people on the ground. Ed Brady is the CEO of Home Builders Institute. Ed, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good to be back.
Now, the AI boom is creating demand for high-paying blue-collar jobs, and people don't seem to see this. But if you're in the skilled trades, all the things we steered kids away from for 25 years, if you're a carpenter, a handyman, a roofer, an HVAC person, if you're involved in, if you're an electrician, good Lord, electricians are making good money today, aren't they? All these jobs, right? All these jobs are in demand in ways they haven't been my entire life, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, with this AI boom, you are building data centers at a pace that back when the iPhone came out, the manufacturing capacity went way up and the demand went way up. These data centers that are all over the country, popping up all over the country, are taking away electricians from the residential community and the industry. And so we are desperate, not only in the commercial and industrial space, the shipbuilding, the Defense Industrial Institute. The industry is booming, and so we don't have enough electricians. People are getting older; they're aging out of their electrical jobs, and we don't have enough people coming into them. And that's with every trade: carpenters, plumbers, HVAC technicians. And so AI is creating an opportunity for the industry to recruit more people.
I heard Mike Rowe talking here last week, and he said he had talked to 3 electricians, all about 23 years of age, in Texas, who had all been poached 3 times in the last 18 months, all 3 of them, because of what you talk about, this construction. All of them were making over $300,000 a year as electricians. And I'm thinking, that's a big paycheck for somebody who's 23. You can build a life, you can be retired at 40 with that kind of money flowing in, can't you?
That's a big number, Steve. And I think if I were to do it all over again, I built houses for 30-some years, and I had a bunch of money in, I always use this story, I had a bunch of money in land. That was my toy. That was my investment for the future. The electricians, plumbers, HVAC, painters, drywallers, they had boats and cars and second homes. They were thriving and are thriving. And you can graduate from high school, and as you go through high school, get your pre-apprenticeship and get a little knowledge on electricians, on electrical or plumbing, and 2 years later you're making $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. 3 years later you own your own business, you're employing 10 people. So the opportunity in the skilled trades is not just working with your hands and physical labor. The opportunity is growth, and the sky, frankly, is the limit if you get into the skilled trades to grow a business and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Because look, if you become an electrician and you're successful, I'll use that as an example, and you take one of these, and look, it doesn't have to be 300; it could be 100 in a lot of places, and still be a good living. You establish yourself for 3 or 4 years, then you hang out your shingle and you hire some other electricians. And the next thing you know, you've got a thriving business that's not controlled by anybody else except you. And isn't that the American dream?
It is, and you started by saying that these electricians have been poached. Who are they being poached by? They're being poached by people that are starting electrical businesses, have been in it another year or two. And so that's absolutely the American part of the American dream. I worked for a guy that one time said that the greatest family value was a job, and the skilled trades is if you work hard, you educate yourself, you train, and you learn a skill, you're pretty much guaranteed a job. These jobs are AI proof. I've said that for a long time. You're not going to get an electrician or plumber to come at 2 o'clock in the morning to fix a problem. You don't have a robot that's going to take care of this problem. You don't have in construction sites, especially in new construction, single family, you don't have robots that are going to do this work. You can put siding on. So these are AI proof, and I think young people that are looking not to go into college, not to take on a bunch of college debt, not to put 4 years of their lives not earning an income, this is really a first choice for many young Americans and a lot of young families, a lot of parents are at least opening their eyes to this opportunity. And so I think for that reason, we've got a little bit of a tailwind to make up what is a 250 to 400,000 empty job gap in this industry today.
As my friend Charlie Kirk used to say, college is a scam. You make a good point. You're not earning for 4 years or 5 or 6, whatever it may be. Now, look, there's certain jobs that are real important to go to college for. I want my dentist to go to college. I want my doctor to go to college. I want my architect that designs the home properly to go to college so that they understand those things. But so many jobs, good paying jobs, jobs that build families and careers, don't require that. I don't need a communications degree to do this that I'm sitting here doing today. I don't, because I don't have one. So I proved that I don't need a communications degree to do these things. And some of the smartest people I've ever met didn't go to college. It's true, isn't it?
I read something the other day that 60% of the new jobs created in the next 10 years, I believe it'd be more, will not require a college degree. It will require a credential. It will require some expertise and some training. But we, like, as you said, I'm being redundant, but I want my attorney and my doctor and my dentist to be, go through those educations and that training and that level, because it's life. Those will actually also be enhanced by AI, but not replaced in many cases. But yeah, you don't need the college degree in so many opportunities. You just need an expertise, and you need to work hard. And so this is really giving opportunity for the underserved, the middle class, the folks that don't want to spend $100,000 to send their kids or take on the debt for their kids to go to college. So I think the AI boom is interesting. There's uncertainty. There's all kinds of things that are creating uncertainty. But the certainty is that we need infrastructure. In your earlier segment, these communities that are growing have to fix their bridges, have to expand roads, have to expand third lane turning. They have to put up street lights. They have to create new sewer and water and gutters. And those actually jobs are taking away from the residential construction community. And so I believe in the residential construction community. We're going to have a bigger struggle in the short term than we do today, because those jobs are going to take many of those people are going to go into the commercial and industrial, and we're going to have a bigger gap in the residential, which again offers more opportunity.
Well, as you know, Ed, we're short houses too, so there's going to be a boom in home building. There is, because there has to be, quite honestly. Ed, I got to leave it there, but you come back anytime, because you're giving people a path to the future for kids and grandkids of people that went to college, saying, you know what, there's a different path forward, and it might be a lot more profitable. And it might just be better overall working with your hands. Ed, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. From the Home Builders Institute, Ed Brady. He's the CEO there. There's a different path forward, I'm telling you. Big money in different places. I'll be right back.
This is crazy.
All right, let's jump right back into it with the most amazing person I know. Ivy is here. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you today. We had a lovely weekend.
We did.
It was the weather was great in northern Michigan. We got the boat wet after Ivy installed 2 new batteries.
I did do that.
You did.
Yeah,
I handed them to you though.
Yes, you did.
Because they're heavy, but yeah, she's pretty good with a wrench, folks. Don't let that pretty face fool you.
And we actually installed a new surf pad.
No, I did that with you.
Yes,
on the
you
back,
did do that.
Which is on the
Like
swim platform.
You know, when you do your DIY projects, it saves you a tremendous amount of money.
It did, and we were a little nervous about there for a second, but
Yeah.
it came out just perfect.
That's great.
Yeah. Anyhow, what's on your mind?
So I'd like to share with our audience a little story. We took our family to Yosemite National Park, and man, what an incredibly beautiful place.
Oh, awesome.
And as you know, we're heading, I think it's probably our last day in the park, and we had to hit this particular main area restrooms. And I go in, it is the worst restroom condition I have ever seen. Toilet paper piled up on toilet seats, toilet paper everywhere, trash everywhere. It stunk. It was like it hadn't been cleaned in several days.
Right, and that was the men's room was bad.
Yes.
By my description, yours was markedly worse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I was so angry because I'm like, this is our treasure, our national treasure, this incredibly beautiful national park. And people from all around the world come to visit this place. And then this is what they get to see, that it's being kept up completely terribly.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So I just get really angry at people who are, throwing a fit over President Trump cleaning up D.C. and cleaning up the fountain at the World War II Memorial. And Anthony has some B-roll here that he can play. D.C. residents in that area are reacting because the marble has never been this white before. It's never been so clean. It's never looked so beautiful in the last 50 years or however many years.
It's spectacular.
And he's doing this with all of the fountains around the D.C. Capitol. And he's also, we're doing the reflecting pool renovation. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen hateful posts about this. I'm like, why would we not want our country, especially our crown jewel, Washington, D.C., to look beautiful and to not look like filth and to... this is the greatest nation on earth. Let's act like it. Let's look like it.
I agree with that. I was just watching over the weekend of them, the crowds, the rioters in Paris, defacing everything and setting things on fire. And and it occurred to me, that would be the America we'd have right now if Kamala Harris had been elected. That's really what I think. The fountains would not be clean. Yeah. The reflecting pool would be green with algae and disgusting as it has been for decades.
Right.
And Trump looks at that and goes, that's unacceptable. It was losing tens of thousands of gallons a day, leaking.
That's
the reflecting pool was there at the Washington Monument, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And we've been there. It was not particularly nice. This summer when I go back, I will give you a report on social media and on this program of how it looks, because I'm supposed to be back there sometime soon. We'll see.
The deep sea scrolls are right now on
the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, they're on display at the Bible Museum in D.C. So that'd be when you head out there. Maybe I can go with you.
I've heard nothing but wonderful things about that museum.
Yeah, it is pretty.
And I want to go to the Holocaust Museum, something else I haven't done, which I'm told is a sobering experience.
I would
to say
imagine.
The least. Yeah.
Well, I would love to take our family actually to some of the, first of all, where the beaches of Normandy were stormed, and do the whole how everything occurred, and then take them to also some concentration camps, because there's nothing like going there and then learning the history and
the truth.
The truth, absolutely.
Yeah,
it would be incredible to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And people that do that have better educated kids.
Absolutely.
Who have a better understanding of the world. Look, they don't teach history anymore to speak of. Not the way they did when I was in school. Not even when you were in school.
Right. I actually saw a video of a college campus kid, and he was at UCLA, and he was this person gave him a card to read, and he could not pronounce like a lot
Easy
of the words
I saw that
on the card, and you're like, what in the world?
And it wasn't just, he did this to a whole bunch of people. Here,
Yeah.
read this.
Right.
And they're like, extraordinary, words like that.
Right.
It's like, what are we doing, people?
It would be something that you could look at and should be able to easily read.
Easily
read.
In 5th grade.
Yeah.
That was my take out. These people couldn't read cards that were 5th grade level reading. And I live here in Michigan, and I've watched Michigan. I think we're 44th or 45th now in education. This is what's happened. My state's gone from being top 10 to being in the mid-40s. Mississippi is destroying everybody right now in education.
Everyone needs to take that model and implement it in their state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but Mississippi. Look, when I grew up, my mother was a school teacher. We used to make fun of Mississippi. We did.
Right.
Because they were so bad, and now they're setting the standard.
Yeah. Well, the other statistic that kids entering college cannot finish books. They cannot read assignments. They're incapable of grasping what they're reading and being able to finish it. I mean,
by design, I think TikTok videos and all these social media platforms.
Well, attention. We already have attention deficit issues. We're just making it worse because these short little videos are like, I need to see
consume.
Right.
Yeah, but there's
hard to concentrate on anything.
Right. For me, and I'll give a free plug to Hillsdale here. On their education platforms, I've gotten a couple certificates, and I'm looking at what a wonderful resource.
Absolutely. And it's free.
And it's free at hillsdalecollege.com.
And so much information.
And you can learn right now. I'm doing the Roman Republic, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rise and fall of the Roman Republic.
Yes,
but we did the book of Genesis together.
We both finished that one together, yeah.
Yeah, and just remarkable education available. And you have to retain some information because there are quizzes and there is a final exam for each course.
There is.
So you actually have to learn something. But this social media stuff, the electronic devil is short-circuiting the minds of millions, I think.
And our adults, yeah.
Yeah, adults too. Ivy, love you.
I love you.
We'll be right back with some final thoughts after this. Well, the first 90 days of the war has upended energy markets, that's for sure. We're down about 1 billion barrels of reserve globally. And a lot of the countries have used their strategic petroleum reserves as we have. But that's a temporary fix. It's not a long-term solution. And as some parts of the world, Asia most particularly, China is really starting to run tight on energy supply. And so today, oil prices are up about 3%, but the fact of the matter is it's still at $89 a barrel. It's a long way from the $120 it reached briefly earlier, several weeks ago, and a long way from the $140 a barrel that we saw in July of 2022 when Joe Biden was in the White House. And gas prices have eased dramatically, down 50 cents in a week. Which is a dramatic decrease, right? That's where we are. 20 cents. My fault. 20 cents down in a week. But it is an important thing to keep an eye on because, look, all of this is related to the price of everything, whether it's groceries or home building materials or whatever it is you pick up, deliveries to your house, whatever it might be. It's time to find a solution to this issue in Iran. It's time to, and I don't know what that solution is because the Iranians are obviously divided without a solution. And when you talk to one group and they say, yes, let's have a peace agreement, and the other group says, no, let's attack the ships in the Strait of Hormuz, it's a problem because you don't know who you're dealing with. And the IRGC continues to try to flex its muscles, whatever it has left. We'll keep an eye on it, but it is time for resolution. Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, only you can save America.